Hey everyone, welcome to Hope for Survival YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Good to be back. You may or may not have noticed it's been about 2 weeks since I posted my last video. I was kind of off grid, if you will, for the last couple weeks. 2 weeks ago was on a few-day vacation with family down at Lake Lore, North Carolina. And then last week was camping for several days with our two youngest grandchildren, our two grandsons, and we took them out with the camper and had some time for swimming and campfires and riding bikes and fishing and things of that nature. Uh, and as always, in and around things, I was testing out the Starlink and running it in different settings and running it off of the Jackery Explorer 1500 solar generator, a little 20-pound portable generator, easily to move around, and testing it for longevity without recharging it. And then also I ran a test using only 100-watt solar panels that you get from Jackery for some recharge on it to see how long it would take and how much charge I would get over the period of time that I was recharging it. And had a lot of trees around me, so I kind of had a small window to get sunlight through the trees to hit the panels. So all in all, it was productive, and it was good. And time in the garden as well, and worked some last night with Hope for Survival Patriot Sister over in Abingdon, Virginia, working on mesh core as a alternate backup communication capability to reach out to the community and to other communities away from where I'm at. And I appreciate her help very much. She's got a lot going on in her own preparedness world, so I thank her for taking the time out to spend it on Zoom, walking me through some steps. And I've read 3 books in the last 5 or 6 days. I read a 2-book set, the first 2 of 4 coming from a Hope for Survival brother down in Huntsville, Alabama, who's diving into his writing effort on a post-apoc series that he's authoring. So it was kind of neat to read. I guess he has included me in the book, so hopefully that doesn't impact his sales in a negative light. Question for you. Have you found your happy place? I tell you, the news just keeps getting more bizarre and crazy day by day, and if you don't have the ability to separate from it, it will suck you in, and it will absolutely exhaust your mind. Um, and I'm afraid right now a lot of folks are looking at a lot of news that's possibly the wrong news. There's some things going on within our government that uh, could be questionable. One being, um, there's a lot of debate and uproar going on over the flock camera systems that's going in all over America from small town to cities. And there's people being arrested for tearing them down. And there's a debate over privacy. And um, some say that there's nothing in writing that guarantees your right to privacy. And I pulled up some documents and was kind of reading through um, specifically. And it says on the citizen right to privacy, the U.S. Constitution does not explicitly use the word privacy. However, the founding documents contain protections for personal autonomy and physical spaces that the Supreme Court has interpreted as an implicit right to privacy. This right is primarily derived from several foundational amendments in the Bill of Rights and the 14th Amendment. And the Fourth Amendment, it says it protects persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures by the government. So that's saying that you, your home, your papers, and effects. The question could be, if you are in your car or you're walking and you're on, let's say, private property in a mall parking lot, or walking through a mall, or you're driving on a county or state or federal road, you had the choice before you got on that road or went to that mall, knowing there's cameras there. Who wins the privacy argument in these cases? If you choose to get on the road and drive from point A to point B, and you pass through several of these flock cameras that are collecting information and feeding it into the big system, who has the right to privacy or the right to have the camera there? So I would not be surprised if this potentially ends up at the Supreme Court. It'll be an interesting argument. And, just like with a lot of the 5G towers that were being put in across America, there were arguments of eminent domain on property where they were putting the 5G towers, and it went to court, and the citizens lost and basically told they had no voice in an argument to prevent the towers from being put in. And then there's always the debate of a declaration of national security being declared for the cameras to go in. Something I would remind you is, if you go on a search engine and you type in to find a map of all the flock cameras across America, something to remember is those are the cameras that have been reported. So that is a smaller number than the overall number. Okay, I have not found any documents that show you where in fact authorities are saying we've put these cameras. So these are just cameras reported by private citizens. So there's a lot more than the map shows. Something else that's going on in Washington that is a concern is under the 2027 NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, in Section 219, which used to be Section 224, It's a proposal of establishing the United States and Israel establishing a defense technology cooperation initiative. It directs the Department of Defense to appoint an executive agent to accelerate joint research, development, and integration of emerging defense technologies into U.S. and Israeli weapon systems. This is artificial intelligence, quantum computing, autonomous systems, missile, air, and counter drone defense, cyber warfare, electronic warfare, and more. It also could potentially mean that on the battlefield where the U.S. and Israel are jointly fighting a war, that U.S. Service members could come under the authority and leadership of an Israeli officer. And I do believe that this may be the first time in history of the United States that this has ever been allowed. And that's a bit concerning because it could be debated that it is giving up the sovereign control over the U.S. military to a foreign government. So, this was a debate that went on during my time when I was supporting, it was over in the Balkans and Kosovo, and under EUCOM, European Command, General Wesley Clark was the authority there, but there was a lot of debate going on regarding different troop deployments to different locations and being placed under the authority of an officer from a foreign ally. Okay, and there's a lot of implications to that, and there was some debate over, I don't know what the outcome was, but there was some debate over war crimes, and it potentially could lead to U.S. troops being arrested and taken to The Hague and tried internationally for war crimes on the battlefield. And this, I do believe, would be a first versus a U.S. military member being tried under the U.S. military justice system, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice and court-martialed. So it's been a while since I was there and I read up on it and those actions, but the research and development of U.S. technology for future weapon systems, defense systems, missile systems, and so forth is really high dollar, close knit, protected information, and without going into greater detail as to year by year what countries are in the top 1, 2, 3 of spying against the United States for the area of technology and technology development. It's why it kind of makes this alarming. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just kind of pointing out that the possibility exists. That would be a foot stomper. So I guess when you look at all the scuttlebutt that's been going on regarding the conflict in Iran and the U.S. support of Israel, and then the accusations that we only went to because Israel forced us to, and so on. It's not, that's an unproven debate um, of the reality of it, but. Iran's not stupid, and Iran knows that if we don't get a replenishment of oil, of different grades of oil for diesel and gasoline, even though we do not get hardly any oil from the Middle East in the United States. It mostly comes from Canada and Venezuela. However, we do get tankers with certain grades of oils that has to be mixed with some oil grades that we have here to create the oils that we use to, I think it's burn diesel. From the time the tanker leaves the Strait of Hormuz, it's 40 days from there to here. And Iran knows the longer they keep us tied up in a conflict there, that our strategic reserves are getting lower and lower, and it putting us on the brink of running out of oil and fuel will be detrimental to our economy. Okay, and that won't be good. Imagine, imagine you need fuel and you can only buy fuel within your zip code. Okay, your area code, zip code. I'm sorry, and you can only buy it 2 days a week, and you have a limited amount that you can buy. Imagine that you need fuel to drive an hour each way to work, and you can only get so much fuel per week. Or we go into a lockdown like we went in from 2020 to 2024, roughly. They know they've pulled it off before, and to do it again probably would not take a whole lot of thought. And we're right back to where we were at not long ago. Well, Iran knows these things, and Iran knows the longer they can prolong us and keep us tied up, the more impact it's having on us here in the U.S. The Strait of Hormuz is basically a horseshoe, and within that horseshoe, it is basically high rock canyons. Okay, and we cannot. If you've noticed, we have our battleships quite a distance away from the mainland and the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, out of reach of their missiles, and sending any kind of ships or fighter aircraft into that horseshoe shape is basically a death wish against our military. Okay, because the canyon walls are laced with drones all over the place, and the ability to fire on the resources as they move through or fly through. That's why they have not made an attempt to go into the Strait of Hormuz. Last night there were, I believe, Canadian Prepper released some information that the war was spreading, and Yemen is getting involved, and Saudi Arabia is getting involved, and one of the straits by Saudi Arabia was now closed off as well. So um, the first thing you think of is that it impacts is fuel, but there's other vital resources coming out of that region. We just got a report this week that um, our wheat production is the lowest in 150 years. Okay, well, we'd already been talking about some natural events that are occurring that are impacting our food production capabilities, right? And the wheat production being down 150 to 150 to year level, that will be the 2027 crop, and we're already having issues with the amount we have for 2026. Okay, and as summer goes on, I was in a few stores over the last couple weeks in some rural areas, and one of the things I noticed and I pointed out to Miss Lucy was um, how low the stock was on the shelves of these stores. Okay, one actually was in my community, and I went in on two occasions to buy certain items, some shelf items, some cooler items, and how picked over the volume was. Now, this was in and around a holiday weekend, and that could have also impacted. But um, I was really surprised because typically the people shop during the day and then they have crews that come in at night and they restock all the shelves. Okay, and with a just-in-time supply system that we have in America, every item scanned automatically feeds back to the warehouse, and the warehouse to supply this particular store is about 60 miles from here towards Virginia. So getting it on a truck and bringing a truck in here is minimal effort. So I was just kind of surprised. It could be nothing, but it was surprising that um, probably 70% of the items I was shopping for, I either had to make other choices or I was buying the last item of that type on the shelf. So uh, monitor these things for your area. Ask questions to the clerks. Hey, do you have any in the back? When are you going to get some more in? Okay. Because a lot of indicators are as summer goes on into August time frame and the end of August that the resources could um, be delivered in smaller amounts. And definitely if the Iran crisis continues into August without some form of a resolution. Okay, because remember, you gotta have diesel to run the trucks, and if you can't run the trucks, it's like the first article I wrote um, for the website, for the Hope for Survival website 6 years ago when the 18-wheeler stopped rolling. You're gonna see it: pharmaceuticals, fuel, and food. Okay, there has to be fuel, there has to be trucks, and they have to be able to keep rolling into all the communities. So just keep that in mind. But keep on preparing. I communicate with a lot of the folks out in different locations who are working hard through the heat to do their projects, what they're growing and their animals, and canning and learning and so forth. Okay, just be careful to not get caught up in. Um, I scan through titles of podcasters, and it's almost like they have some good information, but it's like they make their titles to where every day is doom and gloom. Okay, if you're busting your hump and you're gardening and you're putting food back and you're working on your preparedness efforts, um, every day that you do this, and the more that you put back, and the more that you understand, the better off that you're going to be. Okay. Um, one of the big areas, one of the big areas that still concerns me, and I was messaging with another Hope for Survival brother yesterday morning. Uh, on this topic was I'm still concerned that many have not conducted. They keep preparing and they keep putting food back and all this stuff, but they have failed almost in every effort to conduct what's called an area assessment, and we call that our 5 mile radius. Okay, in the military we call it an area assessment, and I used to fly in with one person and sometimes 5 people, and we would fly into a country wearing civilian clothes, and we would go out into different areas, and our job was to assess and get a flavor of the town. Meaning, if we brought in a package of special operators, how receptive or not would the community be to us being there? Okay. And we would write a report up and send it back to Germany, to Special Operations Headquarters, and we'd make recommendations and state some of the threats that was observable. Okay, this is the same thing we're talking about from your community. What in and around you is going to be a threat to you? Okay, and that's how you plan. You plan against a prioritized list of things, from dams and bridges to floodplains to politics to gangs to racial issues and so on and so forth. Okay, these are all unemployment's a big one. These are all things that you need to be thinking about. Okay, and I know that most folks are not doing this. They don't have a clue. All they know is how many cans of beans they have and how many frozen packs of chicken they have. And that's all good. I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is, if you don't know who may come over your fence at night, you're going to have problems. All right? So give it some thought. It takes work, folks. No one ever said that being a prepper or preparing was easy. All right? Because you need to keep in mind, there may be a point in time when you call 911 and no one answers. Then what are you going to do? That's where you need to have plans in place. Okay? Without rule of law. There's no one there to help you except for the effort you've put into it now to protect you, your family, and the people around you. That's what it comes down to. So keep on keeping on, and try to find something positive around you. I don't like to come here and have negative news, but the reality is times are continuing to intensify, and we all have a heads up to be ahead of the rest of society and be prepared. So take care. Again, keep on preparing. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel to help us out, and share with others. Okay, we need more and more people preparing. Don't forget to remember, we are blessed people, and even through all the negatives, we still live in the greatest nation on this earth. Bravo Echo out.